Imagine standing in a crowd, the air heavy with anticipation. A signal is given, and a tidal wave of people surge forward. It's not a concert or a sporting event. No, it's something far more commonplace. It's Black Friday, the annual celebration of consumption. Shelves are emptied in seconds, credit cards are swiped, and bags are filled. A short-lived victory for many, but at what cost? This frenzy isn't limited to a single day. It's a symptom of our everyday reality. The constant need for more, the never-ending pursuit of the next big thing. We're caught in a whirlwind of blind consumerism, stuck in a cycle that tells us to buy, consume, and then buy some more. But have you ever paused to question, is there more in life than this endless rat race? Hi, I'm Kitaro. In 2018, my wife and I decided to break free from this unrelenting cycle. We were done being hamsters on the wheel, so we quit our jobs, sold most of our belongings, and embarked in an incredible journey. We set out to hike different long-distance trails around the world. From the Pacific Crest Trails in the US to the 88 Temple Pilgrimage in Japan and parts of the Te Araroa in New Zealand. Little did we know then that this journey would not only shift our perspective on the material world, but would redefine the very essence of what it means to truly live. The decision. Spending months on our feet walking in the wilderness. Weight is one of the most important things for your happiness. Carrying a heavy backpack for a 5-hour hike is one thing, but walking the length of a marathon every day for weeks and weeks really shifts your perspective of what is worth carrying with you. Before this shift in perspective, I would buy things because I liked something or because shopping gave me this short spike in dopamine where I felt good. But even though those things rarely provided me with long-lasting happiness, I usually didn't feel that weight either, because I could store them away in a wardrobe or somewhere else in my flat. But using the analogy of carrying a backpack, imagine having to pay a daily price to keep you owning things. This would also shift your perspective on your belongings, just like having to carry everything on your back. And for me, having to sell or give most of my belongings away in order to travel made me realize that owning things does have a price. And this price would usually be having to make too many choices, emotional weight, and the fear of losing things or missing out on things. My wife and I both graduated from university at roughly the same time and dove headfirst in a promising career path in the vibrant city of Zurich. After years of working our asses off, we longed for a radical change. We wanted to escape. At first we thought we could apply for jobs in a foreign country, but we realized we would just create a remake of the same movie. We wanted a different arena, culture, and game to play. So deciding to spend our everyday hiking in the wilderness and carrying everything we owned on our backs seemed an ideal adventure. After deciding to quit our jobs and sell everything we owned without a returning ticket, it was time to get rid of things. Becoming minimalists unintentionally. I didn't know what minimalism was, but for us it was just necessary to lose some ballast, to move more freely. The beginning of the process was hard, but it got easier with every item that we sold or gave away. For me, it was like a spell had lifted, reducing my wardrobe to the most essential pieces and saying goodbye to old memories like birthday cards made me feel so light. By the time we were hiking, I had only one hiking garniture of clothing and one for sleeping. On washing days, I had to wear my rain trousers and rain jacket because I didn't have anything else to wear. My wife and I weren't following any trends to get rid of things. We didn't have a number in mind of how many things we wanted to get rid of. It was all driven by necessity. And there was another necessary thing to do for us that scared us. And that was becoming homeless. Having a home, a bed, and a place you can call home is such a fundamental need that the fear of losing it is difficult to shake off. Every important decision in life is made in contrast to this fear. Like when I decided to become a freelancer and leave the safety of a regular income, I ultimately feared not having enough income to pay my rent. I was okay with eating cheaper foods and cutting down on other things, but there's always a line you don't want to cross. And for me, this line was losing my home. So it took a lot of courage to cancel the flight and move into my sister's place before our adventure started. In the end, we only had 2 backpacks and 1 small box with the most important documents, books, and photos that we could store at my wife's parents' house. The transformation. The experience of spending months in nature, hiking for hours and hours through the desert, forests, mountains, beaches, and urban landscapes profoundly impacted our lives. The kindness we received from strangers despite our looks and smells, and the connection we made from a short encounter was a hard contrast to civilization's shallow conversations with work colleagues and the comparison culture of who is better and has more. But during and after our travels, I never saw myself as a minimalist. I didn't even know this trend existed at that time, but minimalism, I believe, needs to be in a context to be considered as minimal to something that's not. Doing a simple minimalist challenge to get rid of 1 item for 30 days doesn't automatically create a more meaningful life. But it can be if you put this challenge into the right context. If you take this challenge and use its emotional effect to explore your attachment to things, fears of letting them go, and relationships to the behavior of buying them, that says something about yourself. And this self-exploration could lead to a more meaningful life. The experience of traveling by foot transformed my perspective on possessions, status symbols, and social expectations. I learned that I don't really need much to be happy. I don't need to look cool to have a meaningful conversation and receive kindness. I definitely don't need to bend myself to be liked by people. Having only 1 pair of clothing during my hiking times made sense because we would travel lighter. But doing so back in civilization would miss the context. So when we came back and I started working in a company again, I had to repurchase some clothes. Spending so much time in nature and being constantly sweaty, dirty, and underdressed gave me more confidence in my own skin and appearance. After coming back, there were certain games that I wasn't willing to pay anymore. I wouldn't play the game of following trends or make fashion a part of my headspace. I'm not the least interested in that. I need clothes to suit the occasion. Apart from that, I don't want to spend time choosing what to wear and take up much storage space. So I only own a handful of clothing pieces that all look quite similar. This shirt, for example, I think I'm wearing it almost in every video on my channel. I'm okay with that, but I don't belong to the category of people who only wear exactly the same thing every day, nor do I only own 1 t-shirt. But I want to be meaningful in my buying behavior and intentional about what I own. Today's lifestyle. Today, I have kids. They too have their own mind on what they want to wear and buy. That means we have accumulated a lot of things again compared to 2018. But we practice something that can be called the flow of things. Things come and go. Toys, books, and clothes are not things we consider owning for the entirety. Suppose something is not used or played anymore for a while. In that case, we store it away or lend it to somebody else until the younger sibling is ready to play with it. This way, we can keep the number of things we own quite stable without being overly frugal. But in a sense, it was easier back in 2018 because life was simpler then, and I would feel the excessive weight on my back. Now, I need to be more mindful and aware because my life is more complex. But having gone through the experience of radically cutting things down to the bare minimum was profound enough to remind me of it and make me aware of it even years after the experience. Minimalism, for me, isn't just about the number of items I own, but rather the intentional decision to focus on what truly matters in our lives. It's about making space, not just physical but also mental and emotional, for what truly adds value to our lives. It's about embracing the freedom that comes from letting go of the excess and the unnecessary. So if you're feeling overwhelmed by your possessions, remember, it's okay to start small. Begin with decluttering, simplifying, and becoming more mindful of what you buy. It's not about losing everything, but about gaining the freedom to focus on what truly matters. Thank you for watching.